right, the Minister of Communications and Digital Technology, Malatsi, has gazetted a draft policy direction aimed at unlocking investment in South Africa. The proposal supports the Government of National Unity's push to expand broadband access and attract global players to the local market. The policy shift paves the way for multinational tech giants such as Elon Musk's Starlink to come into the market. Well, we have the Minister on the line. Thanks very much, Minister, for joining us. So it's hot off the press, this gazette that you've just published. For the South African viewer, just give us a sense of what it is you are directing. What is it that you're hoping to achieve from this gazette?
Thanks very much for the opportunity, and apologies we are unable to do a visual one because we are on the road. But basically the gazette that we are introducing is a draft policy directive which seeks to establish recognition of equity equivalent programs in the ICT sector as an instrument that can be used to help accelerate broadband access. You would know that equity equivalent programs are provided for in terms of the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Act, which allows for qualifying multinationals to meet empowerment obligations such as training opportunities, SME development, local use of local suppliers, and also support for research and development. And we are doing this because the Government of National Unity has, identified the attraction of investment as a key focal point as part of building inclusive growth for our economy. But it is important to make the point that this is not about, and I heard in your introduction mentioning some companies, this is about broadening up the space to attract international investments in this space, and to ensure that new market entrants, including those that may be offering new or disruptive technologies, will be able to make commitments that are aligned with South Africa's socio-economic development goals, and that all the players will be able to contribute meaningfully to equity, to skills development, and to economic inclusion. But most importantly, it is to ensure that there is alignment between what are called the ICT sector codes and the regulations of ownership, which are set out clearly by the regulator for communications, that being ICASA.
Yeah, Minister, let me come in there. You kind of rebuffed what I said in the introduction, but I am curious about the timing of the release of this gazette. Just a couple of days ago, we had our president, along with other ministers and a delegation from South Africa meeting Donald Trump, and of course there was a big discussion about Starlink. To what extent was that meeting, did that meeting influence the timing of your releasing of this gazette at this time?
Not very much, because what is important is to recall that we initiated the process as early as last year in the final quarter of the year, where the process for a policy directive starts at the very elementary level with a letter to ICASA, which we did last year in around September, October, where we expressed an intention to do a policy direction, and then wrote to ICASA. And as the process requires, we were required to first write to ICASA, which we did. ICASA required some time to compile their response, which we then considered and wrote back to them, say, having considered your reasons and the intention of the policy directive, we will be proceeding with the policy directive. It's important to also underscore that government gazettes are published on Fridays, and in terms of our timeline, we are well on track to actually do this by the end of May.
Yeah, Minister, I just want to ask one last thing because of time. In terms of the relaxation of the BEE codes, what do you envisage that relaxation to look like? Of course, this is a public document that is going to be commented on, and you're going to take on suggestions. But what do you envisage?
So we must also correct the language, because we need to be very, very accurate in how we represent things. This is not about a relaxation of anything whatsoever. I'm saying that equity equivalent investment programs are part of provisions made under the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act Act number 53 of 2003, which makes provision for that. And that is why in other sectors, particularly the automobile sector, you have companies such as BMW being able to operate in South Africa through the equity equivalent program vehicle. So what has been happening in this ICT sector is the regulations have been misaligned with what the ICT sector codes seek to achieve in terms of broader empowerment and the bouquet of empowerment programs. And we're saying that particularly when it comes to licensing for electronic licensees, that consider this vehicle of equity equivalent programs. The process that will then unfold post the Gazette is public submissions will then be made, and we don't know what those public submissions will say, and we'll have to assess what the public submissions say and then make a final determination on the status of the policy direction.
All right, Minister Malatsi, no doubt we as SABC News will be having you in studio in person so that you can speak further to this breaking story. Thank you very much for your time, sir. That was Solly Malatsi. He is the Minister of Communications and Technology, speaking to us about this latest Gazette that he's just published.